In my recent discussion about lower tier chariots, I would definitely be remiss if I didn't talk about the Tomb King's iconic skeleton chariots. Given what they are, they come with a lot more unit models than your standard chariot unit. That's kind of their main upside. Of course, they're undead as well. Counting as skeletons, they get the benefit of Realm of Souls. This is Raziel versus Dactyr back one of the earlier rounds of the Warhammer World Championship. I wanted to bring this replay to you guys because I did miss out on it before. But yeah, we've got Arkan the Black, 2 skeleton chariots, couple Nehekara horsemen, lots of Ushabti, 4 melee Ushabti, bunch of skeleton warriors, skeleton spears, up against Dactyr's High Elves. He's got Lithnar leading the way here, bunch of rangers, a couple Lothern Sea Guard archers, White Lions, and Silver Helms. Right off the bat, the Chariots getting started here with a nice charge in support of the Ushabti and Arkan here. Just getting really good shock damage on these Rangers, but then having to pull away as the the Silver Helms get involved there. The Skeleton Chariots, one benefit, of course, like I said, higher model count, but their total HP is still roughly the same as a lot of other chariot units. So the HP per model is quite a bit lower. They'll bleed models a little bit faster, but I mean, they certainly have more models to bleed. Weapon strength is also a little bit lower than a lot of other chariots, but 58 charge, definitely pretty solid. Nice burning head on the one side, countered with Purple Sun on the other side. Just both players ripping apart their opponent's armies with those nice spell placements. The Chariots, again, coming in, getting really good strike on those Rangers. Rangers are kind of ideal targets. In general, Elves would be ideal targets for these lighter chariots, so sort of the quote-unquote lower-tier chariots, right? Things like this skeleton chariot, obviously, you know, your standard Chaos or Marauder chariots. Given the combination of low mass and low HP, Elves really are the ideal targets for these chariots to get good value against. And even though they've taken quite a bit of damage already, you can see some of their models are getting hung up there. You do have to be on top of the micro, especially with the Tomb Chariots, the skeleton chariots, because they do get caught up a little easier. Still, though, 8 unit models online, pretty impressive. Spirit Leech also on these Silver Helms, who do catch this skeleton chariot. They're going to bring it down. What happened to the other skeleton chariot? Well, it's definitely in tactical reserve over there. Will be for some time, so let's just not look at it for the time being. In the meantime, Tomb Prince and Arkan both mounted on chariots as well, just to give some additional anti-infantry punch. And this is a pretty good way of playing Tomb Kings. I've seen a lot more people going with, you know, kind of the character chariot spam along with the chariots units as well in builds, and it seems to be working pretty well, although Tomb Kings haven't had that many wins in the World Championship for a number of different reasons, I think. Yeah, I think this is certainly a very good way of playing them. Arkan on his chariot can be a little bit risky, but it's definitely getting in some work here between the Spirit Leeches and the Purple Suns. Definitely got a lot of damage output, of course, on his chariot as well. He'll do pretty good damage. He's going to get caught here. Curse goes off, which will do some nice damage to all of these cavalry, and a little bit of follow-up from the Nehekara horsemen. Getting some nice damage. Unshielded Silver Helms, they don't have quite as much melee defense as they could have otherwise, and they will take pretty good damage from those Nehekara horsemen. Arkan manages to skedaddle on out of there. Get over on these archers, get some nice charge damage. The other chariots definitely still in tactical reserve, but they'll be deployed shortly. And they're going to make a pretty decisive difference in the late game. If you kind of look here at Lithnar's build, he doesn't have a lot besides these Silver Helms that can stop this healthy unit of chariots. So, you know, kind of memeing about the tactical reserve a little bit, but it actually is going to come in quite handy here, given that not a lot can stop it. So with Arkan going over, helping those Nehekara horsemen try and finish off the Silver Helms, and Nehekara horsemen eventually do get kind of ground down there. But nice play here. Purple Sun right on point. Spearmen, I think this is Scorpion Legion even. Nope, just regular Spearmen. They're going to charge the Lothern Sea Guard on the side, which breaks their bracing bonus, allowing them to just get plowed by the chariots. Immediately pull through, charge onto the next target. As I usually say in my chariot videos, always be charging. ABCs. That's what you got to remember with chariots more so than any other unit, but especially with shock cavalry as well. Any unit that has a good charge bonus, you want to always be charging. You know, griffins, characters on chariots obviously still applies to them. Arcane's going to be cleaning up a few units here, and the High Elves do throw in the towel. So a nice fun one. This was actually, I think, the decider of a 3-game series, best of 3 that did go to 3 games, so nice close one. And yeah, fun stuff. Well played to both Dactyr and Raziel, honestly. Pretty good stuff. I would honestly expect Arcane to maybe have a little bit more value than what he did, but I guess it is a lot of kind of lower tier high elf units, so to speak. So not actually that much value, but pretty good stuff. Same thing on the Tomb Prince. Skeletons are mostly just here to die, but some of them actually get some reasonable value given their cost. Nekar Horsemen just awesome here in support of the Chariots, one of which, the one that was actually used throughout the course of the battle, did pay for itself. This other one, in a way, paid for itself just because the threat of it was so much that, I mean, it was pretty hopeless there for Dactyr. Also had a few healthy Ushabti, which, again, didn't necessarily all pay for themselves, but just their presence soak a lot of damage. They, help give that extra charge, presence, just mass and everything. Quite strong, have to say. This is a pretty decent Tomb King's build. Maybe lacking a little bit, and in fact, lacking completely in ranged units. Me personally, I would honestly maybe cut one of these Ushabti, and, maybe find another 100 points somewhere, maybe change a couple of these Spearmen to regular Skeleton Warriors, and then bring, like, 2 Bow Horsemen, just because, then you have some kind of ranged pressure, and the Bow Horsemen generally a good utility unit to have in your army. They can pay for themselves relatively easily, but honestly, I mean, he won, right? So who am I to actually criticize? The Tomb King Chariots, though, I mean, the next one up, Goblin Chariots, also have more unit models than your typical Chariots, but the Tomb Kings definitely have the most, coming in at 9 unit models. We talked a little bit about the Archer Chariot version in my recent video about Tirnoch Chariots, which definitely check that out if you have not. Your Chaos / Norska Chariots are basically interchangeable, right? Marauder Chariot, Chaos Chariot are basically exactly the same. On a kind of per unit model basis, they do hit harder than Tomb King's Chariots, but again, a third of the unit models, so there's definitely a difference. And Skeleton Chariots, again, you can see the slightly higher total HP pool overall, but that does mean HP per model is going to be lower. So potentially in some situations you can actually lose models faster, although in that battle in particular, it did seem like they were able to keep most of their models online until they got caught out with low HP in the first place, right? Like they sustained relatively well. 78 speed versus 74 speed, I mean, both relatively fast, which is quite nice. Having a fast chariot helps them potentially avoid bad engagements against heavy cavalry, like not 92 speed of the Wolf Chariots, but Wolf Chariots, again, 6 unit models. Even still, their charge bonus and weapon strength is substantially lower, right? So the Skeleton Chariots just much higher damage output overall. Yeah, again, the Realm of Souls is definitely a thing, like Cosfira's, all undead units do, so there's that to consider. I don't know why Wood Elves are in here. Wood Elves don't have a chariot, although probably would be cool for them have one. Let's not talk about that, though. They're kind of a little bit strong. What was else was I talking about? Oh, yeah. 80 armor, similar to the Tirnoch Chariots, which is decent. It's not amazing, especially given no missile block chance. Yeah, but no, it is definitely something. 100 points. Can pay for themselves relatively easily. Again, like I said, my Tirnoch Chariots video against targets that are low mass, like any human or elf infantry, really. You can potentially use them in other matchups as well, but it could be a little bit riskier, maybe even against Norska, given that all of their infantry is very light. And just for the Tomb Kings, given that your infantry is probably like maybe the worst or second worst in the game overall, just because like the quality of their skeletons, there's not really a lot of ways to increase the quality. Like Tomb Guard are actually pretty decent, but they're kind of your only good unit, and even still they get outclassed by a lot of other mid-tier infantry units. So it's just kind of, yeah, they're really not great in the infantry department. The Skeleton Chariots, though, are a way for you to try and swing that infantry fight in your favor, and definitely a very iconic unit for the Tomb. So fun to use. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this one. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.